series is here in the heart of Wiltshire, in an area of outstanding natural beauty, and the scene is very much set for 2 days of top-class competition. The lineup includes 8 of the world's top 20 riders, and 11 different nations are represented, making it very much an international field. The unique atmosphere at Barbury adds to the sporting spectacle of the Event Rider Masters series, and we will be bringing you all of the action live as it happens here at Barbury. The lunch break has happened, the first 20 riders have been, and we're about to turn our attentions to the final 20 to go. The dressage is seeded, and so it promises to be an exciting conclusion to the first phase. But joining me in the studio, I'm delighted to say, Oliver Townend, series champion in 2016, and Derm Byrne from Equa Ratings as well, and they'll be bringing in all of their expert opinions throughout the day. But let's go down and say hello to our chap on the ground and say good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon, Nicole, and good afternoon to all of you watching at home. What a glorious sunny day this is. Could there be anywhere better to be on a day like this? The arena is set. Rebecca Howard from Canada is just making her way around the edge. Slightly spooked there. It's been an interesting morning. The leaderboard's been chopping and changing. We'll be getting all the reaction to that here, and we'll be doing the same this afternoon. Nicole, back to you.
Well, the leaderboard certainly has been changing, and it is Ireland currently sitting at the top. But let's take a look at all of the action from the morning. Well, it is safe to say Ireland's Austin O'Connor, who will be leading at the lunch break, but we saw the atmosphere getting to some of our competitors. And the atmosphere here at Barbury is very unique because it is set in a bowl, the crowds are watching, there's the cross-country going on, there is plenty to take attention away from the dressage, but we saw some incredible tests, and actually the top 3 on the leaderboard all performed for personal bests in the first phase. Austin O'Connor, Kilpatrick Knight pulling it out of the bag. 40.5 sees them lead as we reach the halfway stage. Alexander Bragg's a grab who's enjoyed such a purple patch in the last 12 months. 41.4 sees him in second, and Paul Sims Glengarnock completing the top 3 as it is. But let's take a look at that full leaderboard and how things stand after the first 2 sessions of dressage. 20 riders have gone, and it is safe to say that it wouldn't necessarily have been expected that Kilpatrick Knight, Austin O'Connor, Derm would be at the top of the leaderboard, but you're not complaining.
No, I think he's been trending that way actually for some time. I mean, it's a personal best, but I don't think that it's not expected. And Alexander Bragg beside him with Zagreb. Looking down at this side, I mean, obviously the big news is Colonel MCJ last year setting the record, Marcio, and this year, I mean, the complete other side. It's very rare that we see eliminations in the dressage, but we saw one today.
And actually, we need to talk about that because Marcio, George, Oliver, 3 errors of movements in the dressage means he's eliminated, means he can't pick up series points this weekend, which he was really banking on. As a rider, that's a difficult place to be.
A horrendous place to be, and not one that you want anyone to be in. You know, it's not good for anybody within the job.
So Rebecca Howard for Canada gets us underway with Riddlemaster, a horse owned by Caroline Basley and Jean Watson. And Rebecca, the only female rider in the top 10 at the Rio Olympics last year, and that was on this very horse. And in fact, only competed in 1 leg of the Event Rider Masters series, but she was actually here at Barbury last year. Had a couple of problems out on the cross country. But Oliver, just talk us through this test and your first impressions at the start.
Yeah, it's a test I enjoy riding. Rebecca's here on a very experienced horse. She'd be slightly disappointed with the start of the test. He sat his quarters to the inside all the way down the centre line, which is not a great start, but I'm sure he'll relax and get into it as he goes on.
How important is it to get off to that good start?
I think it's the same as everything. It's getting that first good impression. You know, the centre line's the first bit that the judges look up and see, and it sets the scene for the whole test.
We've seen a few 8s creeping in. That's our first 9 for the half-past right that we've seen.
Yeah, well done, and it's good to see that the judges are able to use the 9s when the jockey and horse deserve it.
We actually have had a good range of marks in those first 2 sessions. We have seen 9s, and particularly in the changes, as probably is the movement that we've seen the biggest range. You know, we've seen the good marks recorded well, or the horses that have performed it well have certainly got their 7s, 8s and 9s, but we've seen lots of 2s, 3s and 4s. It's proved, those last few movements have proved the influential ones over the course of the morning session. 42.5 is where we're on as we approach this stage of the test. 42.5 is actually Riddlemaster's average dressage at Barbury from his 2 previous runs here in the CIC 3-star. This is the horse's 14th CIC 3-star. So, as you say, experience at the level. There's only 7 horses in the field who've done more.
And you can't beat that experience. I mean, obviously sometimes it plays against you atmosphere-wise when the horses know what's coming, but when they become established, when they know their job, it makes your job an awful lot easier.
And the atmosphere here at Barbury tends to get a lot of horses on their toes. There's a lot going on. Have you found that in the past, or is it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very special place, as you said. It's an unbelievably natural amphitheatre, and the atmosphere can get very tense and tight.
Well, an 8 in there for Rebecca Howard, Riddlemaster, in the extended walk. 45.5. Her penalty score has just dropped.
Oh. And again, as you see, that horse knows how to strike off on the right leg. It's just lack of attention and a little bit of the atmosphere that got to him then, and obviously Rebecca lost him for a short period of time.
And it's so expensive, 3s and 4s across the board, and that's dropped her 4 penalty marks on her average score.
It's getting tense now. A mistake like that costs you the class. It's as simple as that. Yeah. You can't afford to have these mistakes at this level in this competition, sadly.
We're arriving now at the 50 mark. 49.4 was what Rebecca scored in Rio, as you mentioned, Nicole. 10th place in Rio, the only female in the top 10. But this is not the area that she wants to be in. 42.2 this time last year at Barbury. So, in the same way as we would have seen this with some of the earlier riders, this is a test that at the moment Rebecca would be disappointed by.
I mean, this is a horse that's been to the World Games, the Olympic Games. He's been in all of the biggest atmospheres. He's 16. He certainly knows what he needs to do, but it is sometimes delivering it as you want it, and when they get that little bit of tension creeping in, it's hard to combat it. And Mark Ruddock, who was in with us in the morning session of commentary, Oliver, was talking about how actually all you want to do at that moment is some rising trot.
Yeah, for sure. You can't. As simple as that. It's a real tricky situation. You end up trying to save marks rather than gain marks, and that's...
So 4s and a 5 for the flying change. Rebecca Howard and Riddlemaster getting us back underway after the lunch break. She's going to be disappointed with this test. Won't challenge the lead of Austin O'Connor, who's out in front with Kilpatrick Knight. At 40.5 is the leading score. Rebecca Howard going to be in the early 50s, which will see her, should see her go inside the top 10 as things stand at the moment. But that's got to be really gutting. You've said, Oliver, it'll cost you the class. But to be going out of the arena when you know you could have done so much better.
Yeah, it's sickening, and a feeling that you kind of get used to a little bit in this sport. But at the same time, it doesn't get any easier, that's for sure.
So Rebecca Howard waiting for her score to come in, and it is 51.0 into 8th place, so she sits inside the top 10, but still some 19 combinations left to go, and we'll be expecting the competition to be getting more and more competitive. Well, joining me in the studio for this 3rd session of dressage from Echo Ratings Durnburn, and also last year's series champion Oliver Townend. We'll just have a quick chat to you about your plans for this season, because actually your campaign for last year didn't really kick off until Gatcombe.
No, that's right, and I've sort of taken that stance a little bit again this year. I've only competed once in the series, but obviously that didn't go as well as I wanted it to. But there's still time, and we'll definitely be revving the horses up as we go along, and hopefully finishing the way we finished last season.
And to be fair, if you could put in a good performance this weekend, you're going to Jardy next weekend as well. Yeah. That would see you streets ahead of where you were 12 months ago.
Yeah, possibly. That's all if, but, and maybe. You know, obviously we're here at the minute, and I've got a good horse. The ground's firm enough out there, so he'll have to be right up within a shout for me to run him. But at the same time, there's no reason why he shouldn't be. He hasn't run for a long time. Last time he ran was Burnham Market 3-star, which was April, was it? So
Which he won.
Which he won. But he's not jumped to show jumping round since then, so he might be a little rusty. It's a tricky place, but looking forwards to it.
So Cooley Masterclass last in the arena with Oliver at just gone 5 o'clock this afternoon. But Tom McEwen next to go for Great Britain with Strike Smartly, and this a combination that actually a new partnership this season, but they won a CIC 3-star section at Chatsworth a little bit earlier on this spring, back in May, owned by Fred and Penny Barker, and only a 10-year-old by Garib. Am I right in thinking you've got a few horses by Garib, Oliver?
Yeah, good sire, good Irish sire. Is the thoroughbred by Dancing Brave, so there's a lot of blood in there. Despite this lad looking quite chunky, a lot of them come up chunky. But no, I think that he's been a very good stallion for eventing.
And it's a horse that was actually produced by Daisy Barkley, the Olympic medalist. Came to Tom this year, and Tom himself has actually enjoyed a good deal of success in the series. He was second on the podium to you at Blair last year, Oliver.
He was, yeah. Tom's a really nice guy, good rider. Yeah, he's just had a bit of rotten luck, as we all do throughout our careers with horsepower. But at the same time, he's more than capable of doing it on his day.
Yeah, and still only 26, but also hugely experienced. 32 CIC 3-stars already under his belt as a rider. First time out with this guy, as you mentioned, took over from Daisy Berkeley, who did well in the Blenheim 8 and 9-year-old class the year before, and then Tom comes out and wins Chatsworth. 44.8, added 3.6 on the cross country, and then show jump clear. So a really positive start for them as a partnership. Still only 10. Where they are now, 48, it's a little bit off what I think they'd be expecting. So Daisy's last run at Blenheim was 42.3, and then Tom took over at Chatsworth, as I was saying, on a 44.8. So they're going to want the second part of this to try and bring them back towards those low 40s.
So Tom McEwen strikes smartly for owners Fred and Penny Barker in the arena, well underway now after the lunch break into the third session of the seeded dressage. And all of the dressage is set to music, and that, we should say, isn't actually freestyle to music like in pure dressage terms, but is just background noise. Is that a good thing, Oliver? Do you enjoy having a bit of tunes in the background?
For sure, I definitely enjoy it. Everybody keeps asking me what my tune is, but unfortunately I don't get control of departments like that in my life. Somebody organises me, I just turn up on the right horse at the right time, hopefully.
Do you want to know?
Probably not.
We'll have to wait and see a little bit later on, but Tom's score just dropping slightly, 47.5. Some good consistent 7s coming in across the board. And he's just trotted a few paces there, but it's meant to be a strike off directly to canter.
Yeah, and that'll cost him again. Everything just has to be so clear. An old judge that I really respected once told me that you've basically got to show the dressage judges, and another mistake there.
It's a rather nice flying change,
yeah.
Just unscheduled.
Yeah. You've got to really show the judges what you're doing, so they shouldn't need the test sheet in front of them. You really should have it as clear as them not being able to, having to read what you're going to do. You've got to show them really clearly what everything is.
And actually that's one of the problems Marcio had. He was riding part of his errors of course this morning, obviously, when he was being eliminated for 3 errors of course in his test, where he was riding to the incorrect marker.
Yeah. Oh, Tom. Again, this horse is just sort of slightly letting Tom down a little bit, really. He's spooking a lot, and that absolutely definitely is down to the pedigree as well as anything. Garib's a fella known for that, so you have to be really on top of them.
So Tom McEwen and Strike Smartly just coming to the end of their test, and I think it's safe to say Tom will be pretty disappointed with that. Lots more to come from this horse in the future, but trending around the early 50s mark. And still the collectives to come in, but a bit of a rueful smile there from
I don't
Tom.
think that was a smile at all, Nicole.
Was it a grimace?
Yeah, that was a shake of the head. He knows that. I mean, this is a horse that has averaged obviously a lot lower than that. We've talked about it all the way through, so not Tom's day, but 2 more phases.
We'll just have chance to see parts of his test again, and the nice bits, Oliver, were really nice. But
for sure, the potential's there to be leading at this sort of level, but obviously not today. As you say, the good bits are good. It just needs to be more established and more settled and less spooky and more concentrating on Tom rather than spooking at a flower. It's a frustrating stage to be at, because horses, they're very frustrating, because you know what's in there. It's just trying to get it out of them.
so 50.8 for Tom McEwen, and Fred and Penny Barker's Strike Smartly, and he goes into 8th on the leaderboard. But catching up with our sole Canadian down in the collecting ring, let's go over to Michael.
Thank you very much, Nicole. I've got Rebecca Howard with us. Rebecca, 51.0, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so a solid 10 points higher than one would be hoping for, but yeah, he hasn't been in atmosphere and environment really at all this year, and so yeah, just got to him a little bit in there, and managed to survive the trot work, and then I just let him get a bit crooked, and we picked up the wrong Kennerly, and that kind of made him a bit mad. And
Riddle Master seemed a little bit spooked before you went into the arena as well.
Yes, he's a spooky horse. He definitely is. He notices everything. So yes, no, he was certainly, tensions were high when we trotted in, which isn't too bad. I mean, he was beautiful in the warm-up. He was lovely. But yes, we seem to be kind of a bit well practiced at winning the warm-up and and finding the atmosphere quite a bit.
And attention obviously turns to the jumping tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. And he's a proper jumper, so we'll look for tomorrow.
Rebecca, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, sir.
Well, it's a hard place to be when you warm up well and it all slightly unravels in the actual arena. But now we turn our attentions to a combination to keep a real eye on this weekend. Nicola Wilson for Great Britain, with her great campaigner One Too Many, owned by Jerry and Mary Kemp and Janine Shewan. And this a horse that is a specialist at this level. Actually comes here off a top 10 finish at Bramham, one of Nicola's long-listed horses for the European Championships in Stragon. And Nicola could be one that, if she can pick up good series points this weekend, she was 4th, just off the podium at Chatsworth in leg 1. Derm, I know you're a big fan of One Too Many at this level. Tell us what the stats say.
Level and format is the key. CIC 3 stars is what it's all about. Sometimes One Too Many is going to have a couple of pulls down at 4 star. You know, we've seen that already this year. But don't be swayed by that, because cross country for One Too Many and CIC 3 stars, we're now 19 from 19. 100% record there. It's going to be about this phase. In the last 12 months, they're averaging 43.9. That's across all levels. One Too Many has already 23 CIC 3 stars under his belt, and look at what we're seeing on the screen now. It's trending at 38.3. This would be, it's very early stages yet, and we're going to let Oliver talk us through, but there we go. There's the first time I've cursed them.
Yeah, I mean, this horse has the potential to be neon late 20s. Bramham, he's been disappointing last time out.
50.3 that day.
Yeah, it's a horse that, you know, I think is an absolute superstar. It's the same as all of these things. It's a management job, and it's a way of finding the way of getting the best out of him.
He's quite capable of scoring in the 30s. We've seen him score in the 30s at this level on a few occasions before. He's very reliable, as you've said, Derm, in the other 2 phases. But how hard is it to manage when you come here off the back of such a disappointing test at Bramham, to come back? Do you literally just put that out of your mind and another day,
yeah,
clean piece of paper?
I think you have to just bin it and get on with it. I don't think you have a choice. you know, we know the horse is capable of, for me, the horse is a superstar. The horse is capable of winning at 4-star level from an ability point of view and from a levelness in all three phases from a talent point of view. But as you can see, it just gets a little tight and tense.
9 in for the extended walk.
The key thing here is, depending on how close they can be, we're expecting the show jump to be very influential, more influential than last year at Barbury, because this particular field isn't the strongest that we've seen in show jumping. I'm expecting that phase to shake things up. One Too Many has jumped more show jumping clears than any other horse in the field at 12. They've 19 from 19 clear jumping in the cross country. But this is really what we're looking at. It's all going to be about this phase for Nicola. There's your first change.
Yeah, again, showed a bit of tension for me. He needed to be a little bit more forwards to the change. So I don't think he's going to get the huge mark for that. As you can see, 6, 5, 4. Thought 4 was probably a little bit harsh, but you've always got 1 in there.
But look, and there's that range. That's the range you can see now from the 4, 7.5 from the same judge for the extended canter, but also you got that 9 back in there.
Well, if she could just bring that score down slightly earlier into the 40s, she wouldn't be a million miles.
Again, he went a little early in front then. Wasn't far off being a good one, but again, just showing tension. The picture is lovely again for me when it clicks in and the outline's good.
Nicola Wilson comes here full of confidence, was second at Le Moulin with Bulana just a few weeks ago.
So Nicola
One
Wilson
Too Many,
and
one of her 2
championship
horses
fourth.
alongside Bulana, long-listed for those European Championships. Trending around 43, will we see the collectives drop her any lower into the early 40s?
You should see the score getting slightly bigger, because obviously the submission mark shouldn't be high by any means. Obviously, because he wasn't on the aids for the flying changes, and he had a little bit of a tension and a little bit of a break before the extended.
So we could go up a little bit from 43?
Yeah, it should.
Now what's interesting is, based on everything that we still have to come, don't forget we still have 17 competitors still to go. We're expecting Nicola, if it is 43.6, which is around where Paul Sims and Glenn Garnock are, that they're probably not going to be in the top 5 after dressage. She's the last person to come from outside the top 5 after dressage at this venue to go on to win. Normally you have to be in there. 8 of the last 9 winners have been in the top 5. Opposition Buzz back in 2010 is the one that came from outside the top 5. 43.7, you were right, Oliver. It moved her up slightly.
Into 4th, disappointed with that, I would perhaps suggest. But actually, if Nicola could put in a good, strong performance in the next 2 phases, we go back to the series points again. You probably don't want us to talk about other people getting series points, but it is key because they build and build and build. And if you can get some good points in the bank at this stage, it does help down the line.
Absolutely, it takes the pressure off, and it takes the pressure off you having to use the horses again and again and again, because obviously with whoever you are and however many horses you have in your stable, there's more ERMs than there is horsepower. So yes, it's very important, and if she stays on that score, she'll be there and thereabouts.
Well, Tom McEwen is down talking to Michael.
Tom, a 50.7 for you there. How did it go?
It wasn't one of our better tests. He's quite a quiet horse in nature, which I'm not quite used to, so I didn't want to overdo it today. We live quite locally, and so he hasn't been living here, and I haven't been working him. It's a fantastic arena up here for the ERM. I think it brings all the crowds together. Well, as you can see, it's a beautiful view up here, and there's a lot for the horse to look at, and with the music as well. He's not used to this atmosphere, and yeah, a bit to work on, but I know what to work on, and yeah, it's coming along.
Is that mainly what it was? It was just the atmosphere and not enough practice with it, I guess?
Yeah, a wee bit, and he gets quite warm anyway, so I was just cooling him off outside, whereas actually he probably needs to just sort of keep together and working a little bit. But he had a few brilliant moments in there, and quite a few interesting moments. But yeah, it's easy to level out, and he's one definitely for the future.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much.
No worries, thank you.
Cheers.
Very much one for the future, Strike Smartly and Tom McEwen. But we now turn our attentions to the second of our 3 Australian competitors coming forward, and it is Sammy Birch with the Court Jester, owned by Diana Chappell and Kyle Erscott. And they actually scored 44.9 at Bramham in the CCI 3-star. They then withdrew before running across country. And this is a horse that's won at 2-star level. Definitely one to keep an eye on in this phase. And Sammy herself has been in the top 5 at Bramham with Hunter Valley for the last couple of years. Was actually travelling reserve for Rio last year for the Australian team. The Australians, of course, came home with a team bronze medal. But 7s across the board to start. So Samantha Birch for Australia, the Court Jester. First impressions, Oliver?
Sammy does a very good job. She always produces the horses really nicely. She's competitive. She's always up there after this phase. We have a full brother of this horse at home. There's a forthcoming 5-year-old, I think he is. So we know, to a certain extent, how this horse feels.
And some good consistent 7s and 7.5s coming in, so trending around 44. What would be their sort of expected score at this level, Derm?
Expected at this level, it's interesting because Hunter Valley is a horse that I think is more associated with Sammy in terms of the really low marks, but from 10 runs they've an average of 48.7, and then recent form 45.9 in the CCI 3 at Bramham and 45 in the CIC 3 at Burnham. So you know, I think we're probably trending in or around expected. Interestingly, this is a horse that actually won the CIC 2-star with Tim Price here in 2015, 36.1 and double clear back a couple of years ago.
And Tim actually took over the ride on the Court Jester while Sammy was off having Charlie. But she's taken back up the reins start of last year, and actually one of her first international runs when being back in the saddle was piloting this horse to victory at Burnham Market in the 2-star. But he looks really rideable, Oliver.
Yeah, it looks very settled. Sammy doing a usual good job. And, you know, for Sammy to come back and to win, it's easily said to say, oh, well, she won the 2-star at Burnham Market. But there are a huge amount of people at Burnham Market with the same intention, and to be off and have a baby and do all that, these girls are seriously tough chicks to get straight back on and go straight to an international. Good.
9 for the extended walk, and that penalty score just drops. 42.5.
Moving them into that top 3 area, 3-4 area at the moment, but still more to come. But this is certainly,
and as you can see, it's not the flashiest, but Sammy's just not giving anything away either. Everything's very consistent, very quiet. It's, you know, fairly seamless. You don't see any sort of break in anything that she does. It's exactly the same rhythm. The canter never changed. The change was thrown correct.
2/8 for the flying change.
2/8, and if you just keep on those 7.58s, you're there.
Well, 7s across the board is 45. So, you know, when you begin to get accurate and good marks, and then show the odd good one like that, so her change has been accurate like that, and she is going to have the opportunity. We're going to see the change from the other leg now.
Yeah.
So she's going to have the opportunity, if she can replicate that again, to bring herself down into the 40s, and this is now moving into an area that could challenge the leader.
If she can carry on as she's going, now this last flying change.
Wasn't quite as good. I think she might be joining Austin.
Sneak it. You're hedging your bets here now, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm a gambling man. I go each way.
So Sammy Birch, the Court Jester, 40.6. She's trending at the moment on the collectives as they're coming in. Just seeing our scoreboard being updated.
Personally, actually, I think she's going to land on 39.
That was a bold call.
40.5. He was dead right. He
Oh.
called her. She's landed
Pushed
on
me.
the.
I should just have kept my mouth shut.
Welcome to the world of being a commentator. So 40.5 into equal first. What a great test from Sammy Birch and the court jester for owners Diana Chappell and Kerr Larscott. And Sammy looking understandably absolutely delighted with that, and I'm sure we'll be looking forward to seeing her in the jumping phases, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up with her in a few moments time. But for now, let's go back to Michael.
Yeah, I've got Nicola Wilson with me. Nicola, we were chatting just before this, a 43.7. I sense a little bit of disappointment from you.
Yes, I am very disappointed. You know, we tried a little bit of a different system today. I didn't warm him up for very long before the actual test. You know, it's very hot today, just to try and keep a little bit more, you know, enthusiasm and freshness in him. And he had a bit too much freshness, I'd say. It set off really nicely in the trot work. He showed some fantastic work, and then coming across the extended trot, he squealed in the corner and thought he'd do his own little adaptation. We did come back to a really good extended trot, but you know, then a little bit the tone was set for the rest of the test, and he just kept doing some really good work, and then a little bit of a, you know, uncontrollable couple of strides, and then back to concentrating, which, you know, is a great shame, and it's just the way it is, isn't it? You have to try.
The conditions today, obviously it's very warm, you know, you're athletes yourself, horses are almost an athlete as well, and you need to put in the best performance you can. How much does this sun affect you all?
It is very hot. We just have to keep hydrated and keep an eye on the horses, make sure that they're hydrated, and yeah, the horses are coping very well. You know, they are used to the heat, when occasionally we have some hot days here in Britain, and certainly for my test, he wasn't suffering from the heat at all.
Perfect. Nicola, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers, thank you so much.
So we are well into the third session of dressage here. Sammy Birch, the court jester, equal first with Austin O'Connor, Kilpatrick Knight, 40.5. And certainly it's a warm day here. It was fairly cool this morning. The sun was out, but a nice breeze. It's definitely hotting up now as we turn our attentions to the next combination to go. It is Christina Cook for Great Britain with Calvino the second, a horse owned by Pippinelsa Waits and Equine Aqua Training. And this a horse that completed badminton this year, had 20